The beach was pristine and isolated, but the local legends warned of strange occurrences. As the tourists set up their camp, they dismissed the old stories as superstition. That night, as they sat by the fire, faint whispers seemed to float on the wind, growing louder with each passing hour. They brushed it off, thinking it was just the breeze. But as midnight approached, the whispers formed into distinct voices, each one pleading for help. Panicked, they tried to leave, but found themselves unable to move, rooted to the spot. The sand beneath them shifted, revealing the bones of those who had been lost before. The whispers grew desperate, as if the souls were trying to communicate something vital. The tourists realized they were not alone and that the beach had a dark history it was trying to unveil. An eerie melody seemed to drift from the ocean every night, luring anyone who heard it towards the water. The islanders knew the legend of the Siren's Song, a haunting tune said to be sung by the spirits of drowned sailors. One evening, a curious traveler decided to investigate the source of the music. As he walked along the shore, the song grew louder, more hypnotic. He saw a figure standing on a rock, singing the ethereal lullaby. Mesmerized, he approached, only to see the figure's face was pale and bloated, eyes empty. It was then he realized the figure was a ghost, a sailor lost to the sea. The traveler tried to turn back, but it was too late. The song had ensnared him. He was pulled into the water, his screams mingling with the cursed melody. Divers often explored the vibrant reef surrounding the island, unaware of the lurking danger. A group of enthusiasts ventured deeper than usual, discovering an underwater cave. Inside, they found strange, shadowy figures that seemed to move on their own. As they approached, the shadows took on the form of people, each one staring at the divers with hollow eyes. Panic set in as the divers realized these were the souls of those who had died in the waters, their spirits trapped in the cave. The shadows reached out, trying to touch the living, to feel life again. The divers fled, but one of them was caught. The others escaped, but when they returned to the surface, they noticed a new shadow among the rest, one that looked disturbingly familiar. The lighthouse stood tall, a solitary guardian against the treacherous seas. It had been automated for years, yet every night a light could be seen moving inside as if someone were still tending to it. Curious, an historian came to document the old structure's history. Inside, he found dusty rooms filled with ancient logs and faded photographs. As he climbed the spiral staircase, the air grew colder, the atmosphere oppressive. At the top, he found an old lantern lit, casting an unnatural glow. He felt a presence, watching him, and turned to see a shadowy figure in the corner. It was the spirit of the last lighthouse keeper, who had gone mad and taken his own life. The historian tried to leave, but the door slammed shut. The keeper's ghostly voice echoed, warning him never to return, or he would become the lighthouse's next prisoner. The island had a peculiar phenomenon. On certain nights, the faces of the dead appeared in the waves. An artist came to capture this eerie occurrence, hoping to understand its mystery. As he set up his easel, the tide began to rise, revealing faces contorted in agony and fear. Each one seemed to whisper secrets of their demise, stories of shipwrecks, storms, and betrayal. The artist was fascinated, but as he painted, the faces began to change, becoming familiar. He saw the faces of people he knew, people who were still alive. Horrified, he realized the tide was showing not just the past, but the future. In a panic, he tried to flee, but the water surged, pulling him in. The next morning, his body was found washed up on the shore, his unfinished painting depicting his own face among the lost souls. The story of the lighthouse keeper's ghost had become a local legend, but few believed it. A skeptic journalist came to debunk the tale, spending a night in the lighthouse to prove it was all superstition. As the night wore on, strange things began to happen. The temperature dropped suddenly, and the light at the top began to flicker. Despite the automation system, the journalist heard footsteps echoing in the halls. Though he was alone, he set up a camera, determined to capture evidence of the so-called ghost. At midnight, the light extinguished completely, plunging the lighthouse into darkness. The journalist felt a cold hand on his shoulder and a whisper in his ear, "You shouldn't have come." He turned to see the ghostly keeper, his eyes glowing with malice. The footage found later showed the journalist running in terror, but no ghostly figure. The locals claimed the lighthouse had claimed another victim, silencing another skeptic. An old shipwreck lay half buried in the sand, a relic of a forgotten era. The locals called it the ghost ship, believing it to be cursed. A group of treasure hunters arrived, eager to find hidden riches within the wreck. As they explored the decaying vessel, they found strange symbols carved into the wood, warnings in an ancient language. They laughed off the warnings and pried open a sealed chest. Inside, they found gold coins and jewels, but also a mummified corpse clutching a journal. As they read the journal, they discovered the ship had been cursed by a vengeful witch, the crew doomed to eternal torment. Suddenly, the air grew thick with the stench of decay, and the temperature plummeted. The treasure hunters found themselves surrounded by ghostly apparitions, the tormented souls of the crew. The ship creaked and groaned as the spirits closed in, and the hunters realized too late that the curse had claimed them as well. The islanders had always dreaded the rare blood moon, believing it to bring misfortune. This time, the air was thick with unease as the moon rose, casting a red glow over the island. A group of thrill-seekers decided to hold a beach party to celebrate the event, mocking the local superstitions. As they danced and drank, a strange mist rolled in from the sea, enveloping the beach. The revelers began to feel an overwhelming sense of dread, and the temperature dropped sharply. The moonlight revealed shadowy figures emerging from the mist, their eyes glowing red. The figures moved silently, their presence suffocating. Panic set in as the partygoers realized they were surrounded. The shadows reached out, draining the life from anyone they touched. By dawn, the mist had lifted, leaving the beach deserted. The locals found no trace of the revelers, except for the eerie silence that followed the blood moon. The island had always been known for its strange acoustics, where even the slightest sound seemed to echo endlessly. A team of researchers arrived, hoping to study the phenomenon. As they set up their equipment, they noticed an odd resonance in the air. Every sound they made, from footsteps to whispers, echoed back in distorted, almost mocking tones. One night, as they reviewed their recordings, they heard something disturbing, voices that did not belong to their group. The voices spoke in eerie unison, repeating their words but twisted with malice. The researchers realized the echoes were not natural. They were the voices of spirits trapped on the island. The spirits began to mimic their actions, distorting reality around them. The researchers tried to leave, but found themselves disoriented, unable to distinguish reality from the echoes. The island had ensnared them, and their voices joined the endless chorus of the lost. A strange phenomenon known as the black tide had been recorded throughout the island's history, a tide that brought darkness and death. It had not occurred for decades, but the locals still remembered the stories. One summer, the black tide returned without warning, the sea turning an inky black as it surged towards the shore. Those who touched the water felt a burning sensation, as if the darkness was alive and malevolent. Panic spread as the tide began to swallow the beach, dragging everything into its depths. The islanders watched in horror as the tide moved with a will of its own, claiming buildings and people. Some tried to flee, but the tide was relentless, hunting them down. By the time it receded, the once vibrant island was left barren, the black water leaving a stain that would never wash away. The survivors spoke of a voice in the darkness, promising the tide would return, bringing even greater horrors. The beach had always been a place of solace and escape for many, but as the tide rolled in one fateful night, an eerie silence descended, broken only by the soft whispers of the waves. It was as if the ocean itself held its breath, waiting. When the moonlight struck the water just right, something dark and sinuous stirred beneath the surface, unseen yet felt by all who walked the shore. The townspeople, unaware of the lurking terror, continued their evening rituals, blissfully ignorant of the malevolent presence waiting for the right moment to emerge. The beach seemed to change overnight, with the sand shifting into unusual patterns, forming eerie symbols only visible from a high vantage point. As the sun rose, revealing these markings, a sense of unease spread through the community. The locals, curious and frightened, speculated wildly, with some claiming it was the work of the sea spirits. Despite the growing tension, the beach remained a popular spot, drawing in tourists who were unaware of the strange occurrences. One morning, a group of explorers discovered an old, weathered map buried in the sand, leading them to an uncharted part of the coast. Drawn by the mystery, the group ventured to the spot indicated on the map, only to find a small, desolate cove. As they explored, the air filled with a haunting melody, a siren song that seemed to come from nowhere. Entranced by the ethereal music, one by one, they felt compelled to walk into the sea. Their bodies were found later, washed ashore, expressions of bliss on their faces with no signs of struggle or harm. The song haunted the village, its melody lingering in the minds of those who heard it, leading to sleepless nights filled with unsettling dreams. Whispers of ghosts began to spread as more and more people reported seeing spectral figures wandering the shoreline. These apparitions seemed to come from the ocean, wet and dripping, as if they had just emerged from the depths. They moved silently, leaving no footprints in the sand, and disappeared just as suddenly as they appeared. The villagers spoke of these entities as spirits of those lost at sea, returning to seek peace or perhaps warn the living. As sightings increased, the townsfolk became more wary of the beach, especially after dark. Standing tall on a cliff overlooking the beach was an old, abandoned lighthouse, long out of use. It had been the subject of local legends for years, with tales of a keeper who vanished without a trace. One night, a sudden light appeared in the tower, flickering as if signaling to someone far away. Investigators who ventured inside found nothing but dust and decay, yet the light continued to shine intermittently. The lighthouse seemed to have a life of its own, and the more the villagers tried to ignore it, the more it beckoned to them, promising answers to the growing mysteries. A local historian unearthed old records detailing the town's past, uncovering stories of shipwrecks and drowned sailors. The documents hinted at a dark pact made with the sea to protect the town from storms, a bargain that required regular sacrifices. As the historian delved deeper, they began to connect the dots between the strange occurrences and these forgotten rituals. The truth revealed a chilling possibility. The beach itself was cursed, and the ocean demanded its due. This revelation cast a shadow over the entire community, making them question their history and traditions. Among the beachgoers, a mysterious figure began to appear, always seen sifting through the sand with an intense focus. The locals called him the Beachcomber, a seemingly harmless individual with a knack for finding lost items. However, rumors spread that his discoveries often led to misfortune, and those who crossed his path seemed to suffer accidents or worse. As fear grew, so did the suspicion that the Beachcomber was more than he seemed, perhaps a harbinger or even a catalyst for the malevolent forces at work. As the situation grew more dire, stories of vengeance began to surface. Families who had lost loved ones to the sea spoke of feeling a cold, unnatural presence around them, especially near the beach. Some reported hearing the voices of their deceased relatives, calling to them from the waves. These phenomena were often accompanied by violent weather, as if the ocean itself was lashing out. The townspeople began to fear that the spirits of the drowned were angry, seeking retribution for the town's secrets and lies. One night, the beach was blanketed in a thick fog, rolling in so suddenly and completely that visibility was reduced to nothing. As midnight approached, a low guttural sound echoed from the ocean, a noise that no one could identify. The fog brought with it a palpable sense of dread, and those who dared to venture near the shore spoke of seeing strange lights beneath the water's surface. It was as if the sea was alive, waiting for something or someone. The air was heavy with anticipation, and even the bravest souls felt a chill deep in their bones. In the final act, the beach, once a place of joy and relaxation, was deserted. The town was enveloped in fear, its residents refusing to go near the water. The sun set for the last time on a desolate coast, the horizon stained with an ominous red. As darkness fell, the water receded further than ever before, revealing a graveyard of ships and the skeletal remains of the past. A storm loomed on the horizon, promising to engulf the town in one last act of nature's fury. The villagers huddled in their homes, listening to the howling wind and crashing waves, knowing that something terrible was coming, something that would change everything forever.